All right, let's jump right into this. I want you to picture the most insanely complex, nonstop engine you can possibly imagine. We're talking something that runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and needs absolute constant maintenance, fueling, and exhaust management. Now, I'm not talking about a jet engine or some giant supercomputer. I'm talking about you, your own living body. Today in this explainer, we are going to explore the biological engine of life, looking at the core concepts from Class 10 science, and we're going to break down exactly how this incredible machine actually stays running.
So think about this for a second. What is actually keeping you alive even when you're dead asleep? Like, when you are completely unconscious, totally resting in bed, there are all these invisible maintenance jobs happening inside you. Your heart's pumping, your cells are generating energy, your body's filtering out toxins. These non-stop background activities are what biologists call life processes. And honestly, without them, the biological machine just shuts down.
To make sense of it all, we can group these life processes into 4 main pillars. Number 1, nutrition, fueling the engine. Number 2, respiration, unlocking the energy. 3, transportation, the delivery system. And 4, excretion, taking out the trash. Okay, let's hit pillar number 1, nutrition, fueling the engine. Every single cell in your body needs raw materials to grow, repair, and make energy. And there are basically 2 ways living things go about getting this fuel: autotrophic and heterotrophic nutrition. Plants, algae, some bacteria, they're autotrophs, and they are completely self-sufficient. They literally synthesize their own food using simple stuff like carbon dioxide and water, powered by sunlight. It's amazing. Heterotrophs, on the other hand, which includes us, animals, and fungi, we absolutely cannot do that. We have to consume other organisms to get our energy. We are entirely dependent on the fuel those autotrophs create. Since we fall into that heterotroph category, how do we actually process our fuel? Well, for Holozoic nutrition, it's a highly structured 5-step journey. First is ingestion, getting the food in. Then digestion, breaking that complex food down into simple, water-soluble pieces. Next is absorption, where those nutrients actually cross over into our bloodstream. Then assimilation, where our cells finally use those nutrients for energy and repair. And lastly, adgestion, which is just getting rid of whatever we couldn't digest. But here's the thing. That ingestion and digestion process, it kicks off the absolute second food hits your mouth. 2, 1, 2, 3. That is the adult human dental formula. And it perfectly maps out the specialized physical tools we use to break down food. On half of each jaw, you've got 2 incisors for tutting, 1 canine for tearing, 2 premolars for rough grinding, and 3 molars to really grind it down fine. Before the serious chemicals even get involved, these tools are physically crushing our food into a manageable state.
Once the physical smashing is done, the chemical breakdown takes the wheel. And you have some major players here. Right in your mouth, salivary amylase starts breaking down complex starches instantly. Then, down in the stomach, things get extreme. Your body releases hydrochloric acid to kill off bacteria and prep for protein digestion. But here is a wild fact. That acid is so powerful, your stomach literally has to secrete a layer of mucus just to protect its own lining from digesting itself. Then, moving into the small intestine, the food hits the villi. These are tiny finger-like projections that massively expand the surface area so your blood can absorb as many nutrients as possible.
Now, what about the autotrophs? How do plants take in their essential raw materials when they obviously don't have mouths or teeth? Well, they have stomata. These are microscopic, highly guarded pores, mostly hiding on the underside of leaves. They've got these guard cells that literally swell and shrink to open and close the pore. This is how a plant breathes, taking in the carbon dioxide it needs to make food, letting out oxygen, and carefully managing its water loss.
All right, moving right along to pillar number 2, respiration, unlocking the energy. First, we need to clear up a massive misconception. Breathing and respiration are not the same thing. Breathing is strictly a mechanical, physical process. It's just ventilating your lungs, inhaling oxygen, exhaling carbon dioxide. Respiration is a biochemical process. It's happening deep inside your cells, breaking down glucose to release energy in the form of a chemical called ATP. Breathing is essentially just the delivery system supplying the oxygen so cellular respiration can actually happen. Now, this respiration process basically has 2 modes. Aerobic respiration happens when you have plenty of oxygen. It completely breaks down glucose and releases a massive amount of energy. But sometimes, like say you're sprinting and your lungs just can't get enough oxygen to your muscles fast enough, your body flips a switch to an emergency backup, anaerobic respiration.
This happens without oxygen, so it's only a partial breakdown. In our muscles, this anaerobic process produces lactic acid, which, you guessed it, is exactly what gives you that awful burning cramp during a hard workout. To really understand why our bodies prefer oxygen, just look at this efficiency gap: 38 ATP versus 2 ATP. ATP is essentially the energy currency of your cells. When you use highly efficient oxygen-fueled aerobic respiration, you get a huge payout: 38 ATP molecules from just one single glucose molecule. But when your body relies on that anaerobic backup without oxygen, you only scrape together a measly 2 ATP. It's a massive, massive drop in power output.
Because we really want that 38 ATP payout, our human machine is optimized to grab as much oxygen as physically possible. Enter the alveoli. These are tiny, delicate balloon-like sacs located at the very end of the branching tubes inside your lungs. They have super thin, moist walls and are completely wrapped in blood vessels. By having millions of these microscopic balloons, your lungs create this unbelievably massive surface area to rapidly trade out old carbon dioxide for fresh, energy-unlocking oxygen.
Which brings us perfectly to pillar number 3, transportation, the delivery system.
For us humans, the primary vehicle driving on these biological highways is blood, and it's basically a 4-part team. First is plasma, a straw-colored fluid that carries dissolved nutrients, hormones, and waste. Next, the red blood cells. Think of these as the delivery trucks packed with hemoglobin to carry that vital oxygen. Then we have the white blood cells, your body's dedicated defense force fighting off pathogens. And finally, platelets. These are the emergency repair crews that rush in to clot your blood if you get a cut.
But pushing all that blood through thousands of miles of vessels requires serious hydraulic force: 120 over 80 millimeters of mercury. You probably heard those numbers at the doctor. It's the normal adult blood pressure range. That top number, the systolic pressure, is the absolute maximum force when your heart's chambers contract to blast blood out. The bottom number, diastolic, is the resting pressure in the split second between beats. Your heart is this relentless double pump, maintaining that pressure every second of every day to keep you alive.
Because of that extreme pressure, the biological pipes are highly specialized. We've got arteries and we've got veins. Arteries are your heavy-duty, thick-walled, elastic pipes because they carry freshly oxygenated blood away from the heart under all that intense pressure. Veins are totally different. They carry deoxygenated blood back to the heart. The pressure in veins is way lower, so their walls are thinner, but they have these brilliant little internal valves built in just to stop the blood from flowing backward due to gravity.
You know, plants have transportation highways too. They rely on a vascular system made of 2 main tissues, xylem and phloem. Xylem is strictly a one-way water pipe. It moves water and dissolved minerals straight up from the roots to the leaves. Phloem, on the other hand, is a 2-way nutrient highway. It takes the food manufactured up in the leaves and translocates it up, down, or wherever the plant needs it for growth and storage. But think about this. How does a giant tree move water hundreds of feet straight up into the air without a pumping heart? It's incredible. The secret is transpiration. This is the evaporation of water right out of the plant's leaves, mostly through those stomata we talked about. It's kind of like the plant is sweating. As those water molecules evaporate into the air, they create a giant vacuum straw effect. It literally forms a suction pole that draws a continuous column of water all the way up from the roots, completely defying gravity.
And that leads us to our 4th and final pillar, excretion, taking out the trash.
In the human machine, your kidneys are the absolute stars of the sanitation department. They are packed with millions of microscopic filters called nephrons, and they make urine in 3 very precise steps. Step 1. Glomerular filtration. Blood is squeezed under high pressure through tiny capillaries, pushing out water, urea, and nutrients. But wait, step 2 is selective reabsorption. Your body is smart. It doesn't want to lose the good stuff, so it carefully grabs back the useful glucose, amino acids, and the exact right amount of water. Finally, step 3, tubular secretion. Any remaining trash or excess ions are actively pumped into the waste tube. What you're left with is urine, dumping the toxic urea while perfectly recycling what you still need.
When you compare that to plants, plant waste management is just brilliantly simple. They don't have complex kidneys. Instead, they just off-gas oxygen, which is technically a waste product of photosynthesis, right through their stomata. They sweat out excess water through transpiration. They even pack toxic waste into their leaves or bark, and then just let those parts fall to the ground. Or they'll store wastes as resins and gums inside old dead xylem tissue.
But what happens when our own highly complex human filtration system actually fails? That's where hemodialysis comes into the picture. Hemodialysis is a medical procedure that literally uses a machine outside your body to filter waste, salts, and excess water from your blood when your natural kidneys shut down. It is a stunning, life-saving piece of technology that essentially acts as a totally artificial imitation of a human nephron.
And really, looking at all of this leaves us with a pretty profound question. How closely will our artificial machines ever actually mimic the unbelievable efficiency of your own biological engine? Just think about all those invisible maintenance jobs, the cellular respiration, the hydraulic pressure of your heart, the microscopic chemical sorting of your kidneys, happening right now, keeping you alive without you even having to think about it for a single second. It's absolutely wild, right? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep marveling at the incredible engine of life.